quickly, it's very, very powerful. Let's move over to the next slide and I'll show you how and why. So, what is DISC? DISC is a tool, if used well, can increase the success of rapport building and also influence people without saying and doing much. All right? Now, that's a pretty bold statement to make with a simple little tool like this. Now, listeners, if I can say something to you, this is powerful stuff. It works time and time again. I would say probably 80 to 90% of times it's working, if used well. Now, remember, if we try to get too cocky around this and think we know it all, it's not going to work. So you need to have a balance of how you use this. You need to be engaged in the way it works, and you need to practice it. All right? So the first thing I would suggest you do today is actually get out, after you've learned what you've learned today, is go out and try it on people you know and see what type of personality profile there is. There are other personality profiles like Myers-Briggs and schema mapping and things like that, which are all really, really great. The challenge with those is they go through a number of questions, whereas here we can do this really quickly. All right? So that's very, very important. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Now, how may you may ask, is this going to be very effective in this tool? Well, see, what ultimately it does, it breaks it down into 4 personality profiles. And the 4 personality profiles are the way we're going to structure our conversation with our clients. And that's what makes it powerful, and that's how it works. It's a very simple tool to use, very effective in acknowledging and understanding how to get somebody to that stage as well. All right, so let's crack into it. Let's get moving and see how it works. So let's move on to the next slide. Now, first of all, we need to understand the original philosophy of what we're talking about with Stephen Covey. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Now, we also need to understand who we are. You see, we build rapport with people we like, the same way that other people build rapport with us because they like us, because there's a commonality bond. Now, I want you to write this down. Commonality builds rapport, okay? How does that work? Well, the reality is it's studied in neuroscience. It's studied in the psychology of behavior. Our brains react and automatically gel with people who are of the same opinion or who are of the same style as us. So, say for instance, if I don't want to get political here, so I'm not going to give you a political opinion, but let's say for instance somebody has something against the Liberal Party or the Labor Party. Let me be neutral here. All right. Now, if you're a Labor Party supporter and somebody's talking against the Liberal Party and a big supporter of the Labor Party, you're going to sort of have that common rapport. You're going to have that commonality. And go, you know what? Yeah, I agree with you, man. You know, you're right with what you say. And vice versa, if somebody agrees with the Liberal Party over the Labor Party, and they're going to have that commonality. You know, it's things like this. You know, what car do you drive? You know, I drive a Nissan. Oh, wow, I drive a Nissan as well. Which Nissan is it? Oh, I've got the, you know, this car. Oh, wow, I have that one as well. How do you find it? Bang, the conversation starts. Commonality builds rapport. This is the main, this is one of the most important things you want to get out today. If you can understand one thing from today, it's commonality builds rapport. Find commonality with your prospect and you will build a rapport so fast that you won't even talk about your product. What you'll do is build a solution for them. Okay? They will give you the trust. The commonality builds rapport, which then builds trust. Write that down. Commonality builds rapport, which then builds trust. So where this power of DISC and the results that you're going to see for yourself are going to give you. But you need to understand who you are first. It's not so you can change yourself, but you can actually more or less manipulate yourself to the way somebody else is thinking. So for instance, if somebody likes to ask a lot of questions and be very detail-orientated, do you think it's going to be powerful for you to change your presentation to become a bit detail-orientated, even though you're not? Of course it is. So understand that. So this is actually a higher level thinking of even more than just in selling. It's the ability to communicate with anyone. You know, we're going to be talking about how to get through gatekeepers in a few weeks' time, okay? And what we're going to be talking about is how do you do it? And one of the main ways to do it is actually building rapport. You're consistently building rapport with anyone and everyone you meet. Not because you want something out of them, but you never know where it can lead you to what can be done. All of a sudden, you build rapport with somebody, they start telling you something, and you go, wow, geez, I didn't know that about that person. That's amazing, okay? So, two things here. Commonality builds rapport, which builds trust, okay? And the other thing I want you to write down is interested people are interesting. So if you're interested in somebody else, they're going to be more interested in you. It's the same thing, okay? It's what you give.